Setting goals is difficult, none more so than when it comes to finance. There are so many articles online about how much you should save by a certain age, what you should be doing with your money, but none of them really help you build any financial goals that are applicable to your circumstances. So in this video, I want to share with you the financial goals that I've been following and sticking to throughout my 20s and how you can adopt similar goals for yourself. Welcome, and if you're new here, I'm Kieran Panchal, and here I help you navigate the crazy decade that is your 20s. And so if you're trying to figure out life just like me, consider joining me on this journey by subscribing down below. The first goal is around income, around how you make money. Now, you all know that more money will probably solve more of our problems, allow us to do new and different things and change circumstances in our life. But it's sometimes really difficult to set income goals. And I was struggling with this exact same thing when I went into the working world at the age of 21, kind of knowing that I wanted to increase my income, but not knowing, one, by how much, and two, how the hell I was actually going to do that. And so I set myself the target of doubling my income from when I started working at the age of 21 to by the time I got to the age of 30. Now, I've been fortunate enough to more than double it in that time period, which I'm super proud of. But I think by setting that goal, I think it's a realistic goal for a vast majority of people, and applies regardless of whether you're working a corporate job or a job outside of corporate. Having that goal, I think, is a very realistic goal, but one that also sets you up for further progression in your 30s. But the question comes around, like, how do you actually increase your income? And so there are obviously a couple of ways you can do that, right? So if you are in a job, in a corporate job, let's say, you can get promoted, obviously, by working hard, meeting your company's objectives, your personal objectives, etc., and you can continue to grow. However, we all know that by staying in one organization and progressing through the grades, you're not necessarily going to see those larger increases in salary that you would if you changed organizations, because like with everything, when you join a new organization, an organization wants to attract you, and so you'll always get a slightly higher salary when you go to join a new organization rather than when you kind of going up the ranks and getting promoted and staying in one organization. Now, that's kind of flattening out a little bit because companies are realizing that they would rather keep people than lose them to competitors or other organizations, because people are essentially changing more money. But moving jobs is a very, very good way to make big step changes in your salary. And the other way you can increase your income is by finding ways to create additional sources of income, second, third, even fourth sources of income. So a lot of people, and I'm included in one of these, really only have one source of income, and that is our job. But what's become so apparent through lockdown, but even through the last 10, 15 years, is that it's actually quite easy even to create second and third sources of income with things like maybe digital products or with investment or whatever it might be. And so there are loads of different avenues that you can go down based on your interests, the things you like, the things maybe you don't like, as a way to create that second source of income to allow you to spend money on those things that you want to do or change your lifestyle, buy whatever. And so setting that goal, I think, of doubling your income from when you're 20 to when you're 30 is a really realistic and very valuable financial goal. Okay, so the next is to improve your credit score or rating. Now, your credit score is basically how trustworthy you appear to banks and financial institutions that want to borrow you money. Now, in the future, whether it's your house you're buying and you need to get a mortgage, or you want to buy a car and you need car financing, or you're buying a phone and you're getting out on a contract, all of those are financial institutions lending you money. And so there are things that you can do in your 20s to increase your credit worthiness, to show that you are a trustworthy person and that you can pay back all of the credit that you have borrowed. And so that includes things like, paying your credit card bills on time, paying your phone bills on time, paying any car bills on time. All of that helps build trust in the financial institution's eyes that you're a very trustworthy person. And there are some really great tools that you can use, free online tools, to help figure out what your credit score is currently and what that enables you maybe to do or not to do. So Experian have a very good free tool where you just pop in some very standard information and it helps and it brings you that credit score. And then it also gives you a bit of guidance as to the things that you can do to improve that. And so improving your credit score will undoubtedly positively impact your financial situation in your 20s and going into your 30s, because it will mean you're in a better position to borrow when it comes to housing, and you're just in a better position to borrow money from the institutions to put and invest into the things that you want. And so I set myself this goal of not necessarily setting a credit score rating or a kind of a number that I wanted to hit, but just setting a very overarching outcome to improve my credit score so that when I did buy this place, for example, I didn't have any issues with any mortgages or anything like that. And so if you don't know what your credit score is, as I said, go check out that Experian tool here in the UK and go figure out what your current credit score is and learn some new things about how you can improve it. But yeah, improving your credit score is a very valuable financial goal too. And the third financial goal I set myself was to have a year's salary in savings/investments. Now, the reason I set this as a goal was it's difficult to sometimes set short-term savings targets for a year or 2 years because in your 20s, like, circumstances change. You know, sometimes you're living out and you're renting, sometimes maybe you're living at home, sometimes maybe you're traveling or whatever. And so it's very difficult to sometimes be consistent with savings goals or savings targets throughout your 20s. And so I decided to take a longer time horizon in setting that savings goal and said by the time I'm 30, I would like to have a year's salary in savings. Now, obviously, that salary has fluctuated throughout the 20s and has increased. And so what I've decided to do is basically take an average of my salary throughout my 20s and set that as my goal. Because sometimes, you know, if you get a new job when you're 28 and you get a big bump in the salary, it's going to be very difficult to, in 1 or 2 years, save a huge chunk of money. And so I found that setting myself that goal has given me kind of something to target, which is great, but also it's given me that reassurance in the back of my mind that if something does happen and I can't work, for example, I've got enough savings there that I can live on for pretty much a full year. But also I've got that just opportunity that if, say for example, I'm really not enjoying work and I'm kind of really struggling with it and I just need to get out of that environment, that zone, then I do have that money and I have that opportunity to do that if I want to. One of the hardest things to do is when you don't have that kind of savings backed up, and so you feel trapped in work because you can't stop working because that means, you know, you're going to be behind on payments and all this other type of stuff. And so I found that setting that goal of having a year's savings ready and just there for emergencies has been really helpful to me, and not only just from a money perspective, but also from a mental perspective, knowing that if things do get bad and I get into a kind of a strange situation, that I don't have to stress even more, that I've got that money that is there for that. And that's often referred to as a kind of a rainy day fund. But I like to think of it as more than just a rainy day fund. It's almost like an opportunity fund, one that gives you a way out if your current circumstance is kind of just not right for you. And so if you haven't set that savings goal for yourself, I highly recommend taking that average of your salary throughout the 10 years or the decade of your 20s and setting that as a saving goal for yourself. Financial goal setting is all around setting the right goals for you, your circumstances, your income, your expenditure, your life situation. And I got very distracted in my early 20s looking at articles that said, I must save, £30,000 by the time I'm 25, 50,000 by the time I'm 30. And it just distracted me from thinking about my situation and what was the right financial goals for me. And so I'd definitely say, don't make the same mistake as me. Figure out what goals are right for you and your circumstance. And following the goals that I talked about in this video allowed me to buy this property at the age of 25, which was way ahead of when I thought I was going to be able to buy a property. And also it's just really set me up for a lot more financial control going into my 30s, where hopefully my salary increases and I've got more money to play around with, but I've got these financial goals and habits already in place that will help me better manage and use that money to help me in the longer term. And so if you enjoyed this type of content and you want to learn more about some financial tips and money management stuff, check out my video, which will be linked somewhere over here, about how much I spend on a monthly basis living in London. So if you find that type of stuff interesting, go check out that video. But thank you all for watching this one, and I'll catch you on the next one.